Hi, hopefully this goes better. Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm back with FlossTube number 23. I'm excited to be back again. This is a channel about cross-stitching mainly. I also try to share a board game at the end of each video, so if you're interested in that, go ahead and stick around and I'll try to share a new board game, one that I enjoy, at the end of each of my episodes. I'm a little flustered today. I'm shooting a lot later than normal. I don't know. Everything has been, today just hasn't gone great. And as you can tell, I still haven't got my hair cut. It is a mess, and it's just the way it is. But one of these days it'll happen. I guess I'll start by talking about the common threaded stitcher on Instagram. This was started by Kia B Quilting. See, I'm gonna mess stuff up. And then her husband, Tech Guy in the Hive. So yeah, they've got a new prompt every day for the month of March. There's a bunch of people that are kind of heading it up. I can't remember what they called the different thing. And I'm not gonna go through all of the Instagram names because I will forget somebody. But yeah, I learned about it on Pam and Stephanie's channel. Just Keep Stitching. So yeah, I'm participating, at least for the first 2 days I've participated. We'll see how long I last. I tend to fizzle out sometimes. I'll try not to, but it happens. I will go ahead and link my Instagram down below. The hashtag for the common threaded stitcher is hashtag common threaded stitcher, I believe. So yeah, it looks like fun. It's a way to get to know other stitchers, and already I've found out that there's a group that's only about an hour away from me that meets once a month. So we'll see if I can manage to make it there sometime. That would be kind of fun. I don't really know. I've mentioned this before. I don't really know any stitchers close to me. So yeah, that's exciting. I watched a couple of dyeing videos for dyeing, like Ada and Monaco, and even whatever. I think you can dye just about anything, just some things. Linen dyes really well, and I think Monaco dyes really well because it's a cotton. But thinking about trying to dye, you know, I've painted some. I've done some with the textile medium. I've done some painting, and I thought it would be fun to try dyeing. I'm not going to yet because I don't really have. I'd have to go buy some fabric and all of that in order to have it to dye, and the dye and all of that. And but yeah, in the future, I just was kind of curious. But I watched Priscilla and Chelsea's Real Housewives of Cross Stitch. They did a tutorial a couple of weeks ago, and then this is a new to me. House of Floss and Fluff. She's got quite a few videos. I don't know how I haven't come across her yet, but she did one where she dyes. So Priscilla and Chelsea do like 9x13 glass pan. They crumple up their fabric in it, and then they bake it in the oven to set it. House of Floss and Fluff, she uses mason jars, and then she irons to set it. So they both look kind of interesting. Both of them are very modeled because they crumple up their fabrics. I think, honestly, you could do it to where it's not modeled, but you would have to have a smaller piece of fabric or a really large bin because you'd need it to lay flat. I've done some fabric dyeing. It's been a long time. I know I've mentioned this before. I used to work in theater. I used to do props. And obviously, from time to time, you would have to just dye fabric to get it to be the right color. I can remember dyeing vats and vats of like a velour upholstery material because I wanted a very specific, like rosy mauve tone, and we just couldn't find anything that already existed in that tone. And I remember it was a chore because of just the sheer amount of this stuff that I had to dye. It was a synthetic, so it didn't dye well. If I remember correctly, I had to take it off campus to somewhere else because they had better dyeing equipment than we had. And I just in my head, dyeing is this huge big process because of what I did in theater. So I'm I'm a little hesitant to try it, even though it looks simple, and I'm sure I can do it. I just I'll get there. And then the last I want to talk about is Crafty Cat Stitcher. She did a video on her 15 favorite cross stitch things. I'm going to link all of these videos below, as well as the Common Threaded Stitcher hashtag on Instagram. But she did these are my 15 favorite stitchy things. I thought that was kind of fun. I did not bring 15 things. I brought one. And I've shared it before, but it's been over a year, so I thought I would share it again. This is something I made. I cross-stitched. This is a poppy pattern from Daily Cross Stitch. And I cross-stitched it 1/1 on 28 count. And then I just use it as like a place to hold my needles that I am not currently using. And it's an orc jar too. We have cats, so it gives me a good place to put my thread ends. There's a lot of orange in here. We'll get to why that is existing, because if you notice, I don't really stitch a whole lot with orange. But I'll get to why that's in there in a minute. But yeah, I really like this. And this is we're going to go ahead and start in on my starts and finishes and whips. If you're new here, what I do is I just show them in the order that I worked on them, the earliest that I worked on them. So that's the order they're in. If it's a start or a finish, I'll mention it as I get to that, but that's the easiest way for me to keep everything straight. And I'm going to start off with, this is a Shamrock that I stitched. I actually stitched this while I was uploading my video, or worked on it at least a little bit while I was uploading my video last week. This is from the March 2019 Cross Stitch Crazy. I did not think to write down who the designer is. I want to say Maria Diaz, but I am not sure of that. I will put that down in the description. But yeah, March 2019 Cross Stitch Crazy. It's just 3 colors. And I thought it turned out really cute. And I plan on doing the same thing, putting it on top of this and giving it as a present. So I'm excited about that. I do not iron anything until I'm ready to finish it, because it's just going to get wrinkled again. Last week I showed this. This was an in progress when I did it. This is from Donna Cooler's 555 Christmas Cross Stitch Designs. I will say that I'm not super thrilled. And I kind of worked with his glasses a little bit. His glasses and his nose I'm not super happy with. But I just couldn't come up with anything that looked better. And he'll look good on my tree anyway. So, but I finished him last week as well. I have a bunch of tiny finishes, which is fun. Next is Cheeky Walrus. This is from the December 2018 issue of Cross Stitch Crazy. My husband's favorite animal is the walrus, so I did this for him. And then there's a hippo in one of the other ones, I think earlier in the, like January 2018 or something like that, I plan on doing. So he'll have a walrus, a puffin, and a hippo that'll be stitched all about the same size. I may try to do them all together, I may not, because like the walrus and the puffin kind of go together, but the hippo really doesn't. So, I mean, obviously very different areas of the world. And then the hippo and the walrus are part of the same series in the magazine. So, they kind of go together, but then the puffin doesn't. So, I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do. I'll stitch the hippo and see where we're at on that. But yeah, Cheeky Walrus. This does not have a designer mentioned. Next thing I worked on, and I did not work on it a whole lot, was the Black Brick Sale by Peppermint Purple. I did some more of the border and, oh my goodness, and this block right here. So I think my thought is at the end of each month, I'm just going to do up to, like, I'll start on it like that last week of the month and do up to where the new one will release. So I'm doing like 4 or 5 blocks at a time. But yeah, I did this over the weekend. Sorry, this over the weekend, and then this part of the border. This part hadn't been done yet. So next I'll come down here and I'll work on here. I do have to get a couple of floss colors, which is why I'm kind of stalled out on it a little bit. So I need to go through my color list and figure out what I need to get to continue with that. And hopefully I'll have it finished this week so that I can put it up again until the end of March, beginning of April. I think that's going to work better for me. Next, we'll get into homework. I did Magical Stitches homework, like more than just one thing this time, so I'm excited about that. I did I did not do the bonus, but I did all 5 of the color prompts. So first was King Valiant's castle, and I was able to get the gray, green, and blue all from that. So I'll show you where I'm on that. So the gray, I did this. These are over here, very, very light grays. But they both have gray in their name. So I did that bit there, green. I finished off the green in the dragon, except I forgot I could have done some more on the wing. And then all of this grass area over here. And then blue was this here, and then these stitches down here. So I got 300 stitches at least. I mean, I think I did more than 100 each, but I got 300 stitches on that. I think it was 100 stitches each. So I got some progress on that one. And then for the prompt for 310, I worked on, and this is, I don't know if I said this, King Valiant's Castle by Cloud's Factory. I worked on Sunset Horse by Luna River Crafts, and did 100 plus stitches in this area down here. So I'm getting close on this one. I think this is basically the end of it. So that was my 310, and then okay, so this is kind of a double whammy. For my 5th and final color, I did penalty stitches because I didn't really have anything that had red in the color name. There's really not a lot of DMC that does. And I probably could have pulled out one of my Christmas ones from the Donna Cooler series, but I just wanted to try to just do something. And then I started thinking, and I was like, I was planning on, I think it was Erin of Two Martini Stitchers had decided that she was going to do a long dog sampler for a Leap Day start. And then somebody else said, I'm not going to do a long dog sampler because I already have some stuff on. And I do not remember who this person was because I already have some long dog that have started, but I want to start something big. So the idea is you start a big project with the intention of having it done before the next Leap Day happens. And so I was thinking about it, and I really wanted to do something. I know I'd said I was only going to do 12 starts, but you know, I broke that. And I was really trying to think of what I wanted to do. And I was looking through all of the patterns I have, which I don't have a lot of. Like, this would have been a perfect thing for a sampler or something like that. And I just don't have those patterns. I have some Teresa Winsler. I do have one that I'm planning on starting in August for my birthday start, even though it'll be a little bit after my birthday because my birthday's before the 20th. But I just kind of really struggled. And then I remembered that somebody somewhere had linked Antique Pattern Library. And I was like, oh, well, maybe there's something there I can use. And so I did dumb things, and I stayed up while, like, I think at 12:30 I started looking at this, 12:30 at night. And then, like, and this was Thursday night before Leap Day. So I stayed up much later than I should have, just looking at all of the books and stuff. Not all of them, but a good amount. And I found this one book. It is, let me get the name right. So I've got it written down here. And it's in French, so I'm probably going to, I was a French minor in college, but it's been a long, long time, so I am going to completely butcher this. But it's Le Filet Ancien IV, and it was published in Paris, and it is 255 pages of basically filet patterns, which is like, if it's a netting, and then they would take and tie knots or weave to fill in some of the holes in the knitting to make the pictures. And I'll show you a picture of one of those in a minute. But my husband had a piece of linen that he had bought for a project that he wanted to stitch 7 or 8 years ago, and he'd put like 100 stitches in and decided he wanted an overdyed fabric instead. So I have a really nice large piece of I believe it's Witchelt linen. I'm not positive. I don't know the color. I want to say it's got French in the name, so I tried to do some research, and it's either like French Country Mocha, or there was another golden something, I don't know. But anyhow, this is all based on memories from 2010, 11, something like that. So I say 6 or 7 years ago. It's been longer than that. So, so I decided that I was going to, well, first of all, I looked at it. I'm going to show you this just because this is not what I'm doing. But this is a piece that's in the book. It is 460, I think, by 460. So it won't fit. It wouldn't fit on this piece. I think this is a 32 count. And there is no way it was going to fit on this piece of linen that I have. But that was the one that my husband and I were both like, this is the one that we want done. Obviously, I didn't have time to go get a new piece of linen or anything like that. And I would say, I'm going to say, I know I can get long dog samplers as a PDF, but I've mentioned this before. My reward for Whip Go is that I'm going to buy the Templar Prophecy, whatever that one is, as my Whip Go Black It All Out goal. So to just go buy a long dog sampler kind of defeats that. And that's my favorite. That's the one I want to start with. So that wasn't an option for me. And I just wasn't really finding anything else that was available in PDF. Like I said, I don't have an LNS, and I wasn't really finding anything else that was available in PDF that I was like, this is the one I want to start. So, plus, there's more stuff, but I'm not going to get into it. So anyway, I came across this one, and I showed it to my husband, and he was like, ooh, I like that a lot. And I think it's really striking. This one is not nearly as big. I think it's less than 200 by 300. I don't remember. I don't think I wrote down the dimensions, but it'll fit on the piece of linen, and that's the important thing. And I got a very, very small start on it right there. Let me get the backing paper. So this is my leap day start. And the reason that I kind of stopped at, this was at about 150 stitches. So this was penalty stitches for, I'm having a hard time getting that to focus. Penalty stitches for magical stitches, homework. So I did 150-ish stitches. I just wanted to, I think I came down here and just finished what was there because this is all negative space. So the way I'm stitching it is exactly like this. The white's going to be the beige of the linen, and then the red is the stitched area. This is done with DMC 3857. And so it's kind of reddish, but it's not red in the name of the floss. So I just went ahead and did penalty stitches because I was like, I'm going to stitch on this anyway. I might as well use it for homework. So I wasn't sure that I was going to like, as I was looking at it real close, and I think it's because I was looking at it real close, wasn't sure I was going to like the way the negative space looked versus the stitches. So my husband was like, well, why don't you just find a smaller motif type pattern in there and see how you like that. Stitch that one up. And so I said, I can do that. So I found this, and I went ahead and printed off the picture, a screenshot of the actual filet. I'm having a really hard time getting this to focus. Hold on. If I pull it back. So that's kind of what that looks like. And so this is a fleur-de-lis that I found. It's really small, and this is a really long piece of fabric, and that first piece is square, so you can tell I have lots of extra. I think I figured out I was going to have like 9 or 10 inches of extra fabric at the end, so I just went ahead and started that. Ooh, in this corner. Let me get the paper again. I feel like I'm just a mess today. Sorry about that. So there's my start on that. Right here is the actual start of the fleur-de-lis. So, and this is done with DMC 930. I really like this color a lot. I had it pulled out for another project that I had worked on, and I was like, yep, that's the one I want to do a blue fleur-de-lis. So those were my 2 Saturday starts. I had 2 leap day starts, but one of them is supposed to take me till, or be finished before leap day of next year. Obviously, I need to finish the fleur-de-lis just to see how I like it. I do think even if I do like the negative space the way, if I go back and stitch this, yeah, that is the correct way. If I go back and stitch this, I'm going to stitch the white and leave the black, the fabric. I don't know yet, but that's what I'm kind of thinking. I'm gonna have to put some thought into this because this is, like I said, this is like 460 by 460, so it is a big piece. but I'm maybe that'll be my next sleep day start. That would be fun, just to kind of continue with that kind of public domain pattern stuff that's out there. And I will link the book and the website. It is Ancient Pattern Library, something like that. I will link it down below. I try to link everything that I can down below, just so if I forget to mention something or you don't catch it, it's there. Okay, have more small finishes. The rest of my stuff are finishes. I finished 2 yesterday. So these are all from the Donna Cooler 555 Christmas cross stitch designs. These were all starts for Mania last year. I just did a bunch of ornaments for my starts. I had a whole bunch of remnant fabric that I had got from an LNS that was local to us when we lived in St. Louis years and years ago. And so I had a bunch of remnants from there because they would have remnants for like a quarter or 50 cents. So I just kind of, whenever I went in there, I would get like 5 or 10 of them. And so that's what I did, is I kitted a bunch of this stuff up and I put like one strand or a few stitches or whatever made sense. So there were hardly any stitches on any of these. So kind of making a focus to try to finish some of these before Mania starts again, because I'd like to not have 31 of them still. I think I finished 8 now. But this is, and I can't show you what the pattern looks like because what the finished look like in the book, because there isn't. It's just patterns for the most part. So I can't show you that, but that's the one I finished. The first one I finished yesterday. And then I finished this one. This one's teeny tiny. This is like 11 by 22, 23. But it's super cute. And I'm thinking there's enough left over. I'm actually kind of thinking about rolling it up somehow as a finish. Sometime this summer, I'm probably going to do a big, huge Christmas ornament finish day or week or whatever. I'm going to have a bunch because I already have a bunch, and then I'm adding to it. And then I finished this morning. This is, let me make sure I have that the right way. I do not. I think that's it. I don't really think it matters. It's just a rose, but all I had left on this, when I had worked on this, I think back in January, and I think I've even shown this to y'all before, and I was like, oh, I just have to do the bag stitch, and then it just sat there until I pulled everything back out. So I finished that this morning. So I am, like I said, I think 8 of them down out of the 36 that I had kitted up. So, you know, maybe I won't have most of them still or whatever by the time we start. So yeah, that's everything that I've worked on this past week. I thought I would do a little bit of a February recap. I had 7 new starts. So that included the 2 leap day starts and the sleepy kitten that I shared last video. That was my on the 20th start. On the 20th of each month, these are my 12 starts, is on the anything that I am doing that is larger, obviously other than the leap day because I broke my own rules, but anything that's larger than like 100 by 100 stitches, I'm only allowing myself to start on the 20th of each month. So I'm limiting myself to 12 new starts because I tend to want to start all the things. My husband was like, why don't you just start all the things? And I was like, I want to, but let me talk about this a little bit next week. Have some ideas, but I want to get through some of these Christmas presents, which the King Valiant's castle and the Sunset Horse is not a Christmas present. It is a present for somebody though. So I'm really wanting to spend some more time focusing on them this year, to try to get some of those finished up. 2018 for Christmas, and I've mentioned this over and over again, but in case I've got new viewers, I gave everybody in my family a present of, I will stitch a project for you, but I want it to be a project that you will love. So, because there was nothing worse than, you know, spending hours upon hours on a present and then find out that it's not really You might think that it's something that they would like and appreciate, and I'm glad I did, because actually one that I really thought one of my brothers would pick was one he was like, I like the idea of this, but I don't really like this. So I think it was a smart way to do it. So that was actually their Christmas present for 2018. They will get it at some point. I have finished one of the 12. I think it's 12. So yeah, I want to focus on that a little bit right now instead of starting all the things. But I still want to start things, and that's why I'm doing a bunch of these small projects too, because I can do those in a day or 2 or 4. Sometimes it takes 4. But I don't ever just stitch on one project a day typically. So I had 7 new starts, 5 finishes. Most of them, well, all of them pretty small. I think they were all under the 40 by 40 for the $2, except for one. $2 Stitch from Stash budget, except for one, which was like still under the 60 by 60, so it was still only a $5 finish. So yeah, I did 8,240 stitches, and just a little bit about how I count stitches, because I count them for magical stitches. I do it the same way, where a back stitch counts as a half a stitch. Each leg of like a specialty stitch counts as a half a stitch. French knots are 1 stitch, and obviously 4 crosses are 1 stitch. So quarters and halves are half a stitch. So that's how I count for everything. I made a goal with myself at the beginning of the year. I was going to try to hit 100,000 stitches by the end of the year, which is a lot for me. This month, I went for almost a week without stitching at all. I just wasn't feeling well, and I did 8,240 stitches. So that was still only 100 less than what I would need for it to be 1/12 of the yearly goal. So that's not too bad, especially considering it was a short month. I missed a week of stitching. So hopefully I'll kind of make up that in March. I'd already made up that in January, so I'm not super worried about it. I just know in summer I don't stitch as much, so I'm trying to kind of hopefully build up a little bit of a bank before we hit summer, because I probably won't stitch as much. Stitch from Stash. I began I began February with a balance of negative $31.43. I added my $10 monthly budget to it, which gave me negative $21.43. My finishes were worth $13, which were those 5 finishes, so 4 at 2, and then a $5 finish. I did $36.44 in purchases, and I've mentioned this before. I count everything. I'm not going to count finished stuff because I don't want to do anything that's going to keep me from finishing stuff. But if I need a tool, like I did, I showed in my last video, I had a big box that I bought for Floss. I counted that. I count needles. If I buy it for the actual process of cross stitching, I'm counting it, because I really want to push myself to finish stuff and end up in the black at the end. I am not in the black now, because with those purchases, that puts my February balance at negative $44.87. So hopefully I can make some headway. I think I can finish King Valiant's Castle and Sunset Horse, both of those earlier projects I showed. I'm going to use King Valiant's Castle on a couple of homeworks this week. So I'm hoping I can finish those. We'll see. That'll help. And then I have more. I'm still pulling out some of those Mania Christmas ornaments from last year. So, $2 a time adds up a little bit. So yeah. That's kind of my February overview. The missing a week of stitching because I wasn't feeling well kind of sucked. But, it is what it is. And then I'll talk a little bit about March plans. I had talked about earlier, I was doing I think it's Semi-Sane Stitchers had the alphabet soup, where you would work on a project that the designer or the project started with that letter for each. I think it was like a 2-week thing, and I had a hard time just keeping track and remembering what I was doing. So I'm not doing that anymore. I've just decided that was something that was causing me stress, because I was constantly checking. Even though I had it written down, I just never, it would sneak up on me. So I decided that I am just going to switch to Jen Lee's alphabet in her 24-hour planner. and Quirks and Stitches. If you haven't checked her out, you should. I will link her down in the description as well. She is one of my favorite FlossTubers to watch. So I decided to switch to that because I can do those in whatever order. It's not as strict on, like if I want to stitch, I've got a piece with a TIE Fighter and an X-Wing. If I want to stitch the X-Wing for X, it's fine, even though that is definitely not. The name of the pattern is Star Wars Dogfight. So that wouldn't have worked for the semi-stain stitchers. And getting into, I was starting to think about what's going to happen when I get into some of these letters. Like, I mean, I think the first one I was having some problems with was G, where I didn't have a designer or a pattern on the go. And I was like, I'm not going to start a bunch of stuff just so I can do this. So yeah, that's where I am on that. I'm also looking at my whip tracker. I have not worked on any of my heights this year. I've worked on my one Heart Artisy full coverage, which is the smallest full coverage I think that I have on the go, other than one of the Christmas presents. But that's a Christmas present. That's not one for me. I haven't worked on any of my heights. I would like to work on some of my heights, and I'm starting a new height this month, which is the Possibilities of Evolution Rainbow Max Colors that I am starting for my daughter on her birthday, which happens to be the 20th, so that worked out fantastic. So yeah, I'd like to at least put a little bit of time into some of my heights this month. We'll see. I'm going to continue with Magical Stitches. That is, I think, just, I enjoy the challenges there, and I know that if I need to step back, I can step back and not do them for a couple of weeks, which is what happened in February. And then Whip Go. I haven't finished for any of the Whip Goes that have been called, I haven't finished my goals yet for those. So I kind of have written those down, and I want to work on at least, a few stitches each week towards those goals. Some of them I haven't even touched at all. Although I think there's only one that before. So one from January and February I haven't touched. And then I haven't touched either of the March ones. So I've touched half of them. I haven't touched half of them. And I haven't met my goal in them. I do have one that I have met my goal. But that hasn't been called yet. So I kind of want to focus on some stuff that has been called. We'll see. I was going to pull some of this stuff to show you. I'm going to work on Magical Stitches homework this week. I have some plans on what I'm going to do, but I just didn't get my stuff together in order to pull it out. But I'd like to start doing that. I like watching other people do that. So I think I'm going to start trying to remember to do that. Yeah, and that's basically what I've got going on. I was going to show this too. I showed my floss books. This one's a little bit nicer one. This is one that I made, I think, earlier than that one, believe it or not. But this one I actually did inside out and turned and kind of made a little bit nicer. This was sewed on the sewing machine. I did not get my sewing machine out to do all of those. But this is what I hoed my floss for King Valiant's castle and the Sunset Horse piece. So this one I actually stitched page protectors in, and I really like that, except that these page protectors are pretty cheap. And if you notice, I had to put some washi tape down here on this one because my tool that I used to seal it just melted it to pieces. But this is a little bit nicer, and I would like to eventually, maybe when I'm not in a rush to try to get a bunch of them made, do more. I do have some thicker page protectors. Maybe I'll do that. So yeah, this is one that's just a little bit nicer than the one I showed last week. I don't know. I don't know if I need it to be nice, but I do like that I can just pull papers in and out of the floss protectors instead of having to restitch, even though doing them that way is faster to get them into my project bags. So, I don't know. I'm still thinking on that, but I do like them. They work really well for me because I can just pull out my bag. I don't have to have an entire skein of floss for each project. So yeah, that's a little bit more about my organization right there. And then I do have a game for you. We're going to see if I can make it through this pretty fast because I'm at 5 minutes before this is going to cut off on me. So this is a game called Between Two Cities. It is designed by Ben Rossett and Matthew O'Malley and published by Stonemaier Games. This is one of my absolute favorite games for playing a crowd. This will play 7 people. It's what's known as a drafting game, which means that you're given a hand. You take some. This is actually done. They're tiles. And you pick from your hand and then you pass it to the next player. And it just kind of goes around in a circle. The thing that's really nice about this game is it's a competitive game, but you're working with the people on either side of you to lay down these tiles and kind of a city that you're building together. And you have to work really well with both of those players, because the person who wins is the person who has the highest, lowest score. So you get 2 scores. You get a score. Each of your cities are going to score. And you get, see if I can say this right. The only score that matters at the end, unless there's a tiebreaker, which sometimes happens, but the only score that matters at the end is which of your cities scored the lowest point. So you have to build both of your cities well. You can't put all of your energy into making one really great. But yeah, you pick, you're given 7 of these tiles to begin with. You pick 2, one of which is going to go into the city that you're building with your partner on the left. One of them is going to go with the one you're building with your partner on the right. There's a set collection aspect to it. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble here. Okay. So this one right here, the shops, you get points for having them in a straight line, because if you think about it, shops in a line like Main Street sort of thing are going to do better than just one sitting off by itself. This one, you'll get points because you have to have different kinds of each of these. These are kind of your taverns, so or your inn. So this is like a hotel, this is a music venue, this is food, and this is like a bar. So you get points for having sets of those, like, and if you notice, like if you only have one, you only get 1 point, but if you have all 4, you get 17. So it increases as you go up. So that's the first round, is you get 7 of those. You'll pick 2 and you'll go around until there's 3 tiles left. You'll pick 2 of those, and then the third one gets discarded. The second round, you get double tiles. And you'll get 3 of those. You'll pick 2, and the third one gets discarded. You only do 1 per. So there'll be 2 in each city, 1 by each of the 2 players building in that city. When they have, this is one thing too, they have little markers to mark. So you'll have one that is on your city, or one that is between the 2 of you, to show that this is the marker that means this city, and then the other one is used on a scoreboard at the end to keep track. The publisher is in St. Louis, so there is a St. Louis arch, which I always like to play with. And in fact, we go to a gaming convention there called Geekway, and that is the Geekway colors. And he did specialty arches for, actually the first time I played this was there, and he gave everybody who played the game a set of these arches. I have played games where I was St. Louis on both of them, which I thought was kind of funny, because there were 2 different markers. I was like, I'm going to be St. Louis all over the place. And then the third round, you're going to do the same thing. It's just a little fast. It plays 20-30 minutes. It doesn't matter if you're playing with 3 or 7 players, because it's all simultaneously played out. It's going to be as long as your slowest person to place down their tiles. It creates a really good, like, positive playing experience, because even though it's competitive, you're working with your 2 neighbors to build the best city you can build. And then at the end, you score up all of your points on these tiles, which I'm not going to get into all of the specifics because I don't really have time. But like I said, they all score a little bit different. And then the person who has the highest lowest score wins. If there's a tie there, then it goes to the person of those 2 that had the highest score. So, and I don't know if there's tiebreakers beyond that, because I've never had that happen. But yeah, that's my game, Between Two Cities. It's fun. There's also Between Two Castles of Maggie Ludwig, which is based on another game called The Castles of Maggie Ludwig, which is another game that I have that's a really fun tile laying game that I may share with you at some point. But this one's real easy entry point and fun. So yeah, that is my that is my FlossTube episode number 23. I hope y'all have an excellent week. I will try to be back here next week, and happy stitching. Bye.